You need a ride home. She's out there. Welcome back, Jim. Yep. Come on. We got 2 letters tonight. So you know it. Nope. It's fine. Yes, Susan. Yes. All right. Yeah, we could actually vote on minutes if you want to, if they represent what you said. Yep. If you're up upstairs, Good evening, Chief. Good evening, Mr. Morris. How are you? Good, how are you? Sir? Well, thank you. We gotta go down the line.
Yeah, that's all.
How are you? Hey, how's Jackson over there? He had surgery on his hand today. I know. That's all I know. I saw it on Facebook. I didn't even know he was okay. Really? So, you're not in the loop? George said it would be that. They waiting for you to retire to get you back in the loop? Is that what it is? I guess. I don't know. You'll have to wait for what, Friday's breakfast? Right. That's when I get all the updates. In Jack's life, it wasn't significant enough to mention, so, yeah. Good, how are you?
Call this meeting to order. Please rise, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. Here.
Mr. Lunder,
Here.
Mrs. Thompson. Here. Mrs. Moore. Here. Mr. Shaboo.
Here.
Mr. Morris.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here. Approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the regular meeting of council from November 7th? Motion to approve.
Motion to amend.
Says that.
Motion to amend.
Correction.
Yeah. Those are a motion to amend.
A motion to amend for approval of minutes from the last regular meeting of council dated November 7th, 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Moore, seconded by Mr. Shaboo to amend the date to be November 7th. Roll call on the amendment, please.
Mr. Bittner.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Is there a motion to approve the minutes now?
So made. Second.
Made by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Shaboo. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Correspondence. Clerk, is there any correspondence tonight?
I have no correspondence.
Does any member of council have correspondence tonight?
I
Mr. Shaboo.
I have two letters. The first one is from Ms. Turry. Yes, Turry. I have heard that a relative of Greg Summers has circulated some tax revenue projections on the proposed townhome development. While the summary he sent looks impressive, did you or anyone else on council actually see the source data? What figures are they basing these figures on? They are only as good if they are applicable to the current statistics in Mentor-on-the-Lake. For instance, I've compiled a table that shows the annual household income needed to support a house purchase of either $250,000 or $300,000 home. Assuming Summers will be building luxury townhomes, as they have been saying, I've compared that to the average in mean household incomes in Mentor-on-the-Lake. If we were going to make assumptions, it's better to base them on data that is applicable to our current reality. I appreciate your consideration of this data. That's Terry. But get the other one up there. Okay, this is from Susan Lenahan. I'm writing what I hope to be the last needed communique regarding the PUD. I know you hope it's my last one too, with a smiley face. I understand Mayor Eva has recently forwarded some new information or data, including some from the Summers Group in support of the condo development, thus the PUD. I know council will look at this data in the proper light, and I hope citizens will recognize that. One, the data is without comparative numbers that would be produced by the alternative development options, the result of which would undoubtedly be similar. Number two, the data does not factor in the opportunity cost of Mentor-on-the-Lake no longer being able to develop an attractive destination to draw in other businesses and or customers to our businesses. Number three, the data does not reflect any real numbers such as actual annual at-home income revenue to Mentor-on-the-Lake during the COVID-19 years, when it is perceived that the workplace shifted to a home or hybrid model. Number four, the data is being provided by the developer, Greg Summers, and a project matter consulting company, which managing director is a relative of Greg Summers. Number five, obviously the data is primarily speculative and hypothetical. No one should be basing any decisions on the recently shared information and data without factoring in these issues, and I'm sure you on council see the light. I'm sure you also recognize this is not a zero sum or all or nothing option. Condos equals big money, no condos, and Mentor-on-the-Lake gets zero returns ever. Whatever gets developed at Andrews and Lakeshore will back the city economically. Of course, the 55+ development would also bring in new real estate tax revenue and new resident income tax revenue to the city just as well as the condo. And both housing options will cost our city in lost business revenue opportunity if not built as regionally zoned. We all could put forth hypotheticals in support of our views. I've tried to be fair, which is why in my last two letters to council, I included comparable tables and analysis, not just one-sided skewed information. All sides should be seen, just like all voices should be heard, to prepare, to properly process and make the best decision for our town. I'm faithful that you will do that here. I will remain pro-business, no PUD, alter or create a moratorium on the RTOP and move on. Respectively, Susan Lenahan, 7359 Slide.
Any other correspondence tonight? Hearing none. Move on to administrative department head reports. Mayor and Safety Director, Mr. Eva, good
Good
evening.
evening, Mr. Johnson, members of council, the public here this evening. I would ask council to suspend the rules tonight or at the next meeting, which is December 13th, the temporary appropriations ordinance, which will allow us to operate in 2023 prior to the 2023 appropriations approval by council. We have the PUD on reading tonight. I believe we all figured that this is tied to the corner of Andrews and Lake Shore, even though it is separate. I know Mrs. Moore brought up last week at one of our meetings, the idea of additional revenue in the city. We have talked about the charter levies up for renewal in November of 2023. I'm going to turn it over to Rick Summers and Alex to go through their economic analysis. There are assumptions in there, but they're clear. So, Mr. Summers? Alex?
Right, Council, Alex Kravitz. So it sounds like everybody had a chance to take a look at this economic impact analysis. All right, so yeah, so the analysis was based on a total project cost of 11.5 million. And this summary is showing the estimated real estate taxes that would go to Meadow Lake, Lake County, Meadow Public Schools, and others, there's some parks, libraries, other taxing entities that are not listed. So just kind of go through how we got these tax estimates. The property tax value is assumed to be 6.88 million, and that's at stabilization. That's assuming full construction of the 36 homes. That estimate is based on the current 400,840 existing value, plus about 80% of the estimated 8.1 million construction hard costs that were expected for the project. So that would create an additional 6.48 million in new tax value at the property. And again, this is 80% of the construction hard cost is a conservative estimate. You know, when homes are sold, typically they go closer to the sales price. So we think our tax values are conservative. Pretty further any questions or anything further explain on the real estate tax side of the analysis?
Would we love to ask questions or just the council?
Just council.
All right. Let's see, the income tax for the construction jobs. This is a rough number based on 40% of the construction hard costs, which again we're assuming is 8.1 million. So we're assuming that construction labor is about 40% of that, and then that's taxed at the city's tax rate 2%. And then for the income tax for new residents, I would love to see the table that a citizen sent in, but we are assuming 100,000 average household income. And then this number is discounted because we're assuming only 75% of them are new to the city. The city, the 25% either from already inside the city. And then it's further discounted by, we're assuming that 70% of the residents will work outside of the city and take the full 100% income tax credit. And the other 30% will work inside the city or they'll work from home in some capacity. Currently the property generates about 1,100 in income taxes. Based on these estimates, we're assuming that the city will get an additional 49,300 annually. And 41 new residents and create 58 construction jobs during the construction period. Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Gotcha. I think what stands out, at least to me, the total investment in the project is expected to exceed $11.5 million. It's $2 million in infrastructure costs. Current tax market value of the project is 400, or the project site right now, 400,840, which we get $1,115 paid to the city in tax. Concludes my report.
Thank you. Law Director, Mr. Lyons, good evening.
Good evening. I have no report.
Police Chief, Chief Keeling, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Johnson and members of council. Welcome back, Mr. Wonder. Good to see you. Earlier this year, I was contacted by John Felice, the district Grand Exalted Ruler northeast of the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks. He advised me that a grant was available from the lodge for police and fire departments for $1,250. I spoke to Chief Pachasko and suggested that we use the funds for a drone that could be utilized for both departments. Patrolman Connor Madsen led the project and selected a drone that fits within the budget of the grant. The drone was purchased and is available for use when either department deems it necessary. Patrolman Madsen also hopes to become a member of the Lake County UAS drone team. The drone team will provide training and access to more sophisticated equipment in the future. Patrolman Rob Higginbotham has informed me of his resignation from the department effective 12/12/2022. Rob has begun a new career as a probation officer for the Painful Municipal Court and wants to focus on the probation aspect of criminal justice. Rob honorably served the citizens of Mentor Lake for 13 years. We wish him success in his future endeavors. Someone who grew up in Mentor Lake, he was always proud to have served the community and will be missed. We recently held a promotional exam for the position of sergeant. All of our eligible patrol officers took the exam. I'd like to thank Chief Steve Gagliardi of the Lakeland Community College Police Department, who aided our agency in providing an optimal environment to take the examination. Test results will be posted after being certified by the Civil Service Commission. Mayor Eva recently swore in Joseph Gibson as a new part-time patrol officer. Joe is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. He later joined the National Guard and served in Iraq. Joe is a graduate of the Tri-C Police Academy. We'll be conducting testing for 2 open positions, 1 patrol officer and 1 communications officer. We'll be using a company called National Testing Network. NTN provides testing services at designated facilities. The candidate can take a single test and apply to multiple agencies. We'll be going live with our process within the next month. Patrolman Tina Messenger organized our 8th annual Philly Cruiser event that was held last Friday at Marks. Thank you to Bree Moon and our Parks and Recreation Committee member, Michelle Morris, Mentor Lake City Council member, Mayor Eva, who helped us collect food for the food pantry at Mentor Plains United Methodist Church. Cash donations for Santa's Blue Helpers. Patrolman Messenger and her elves will be taking the children shopping on December 18th. And finally, thank you to business owner Joe Jaros of Marcos Pizza, who had a fundraising event for the Santa Blue Helpers on Monday, November 21st. 20% of all sales for the day were donated to the Mentor Lake Police Department for the Santa Blue Helpers shopping trip. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the administration?
What time is shopping?
5 o'clock is when it starts. She's going to have like a Jungle Terry type entertainer, and then Santa, and then we'll go shopping. So I'm guessing shopping is going to be closer to 7 o'clock.
Do you need help again, Chip?
Can always use help.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to board committee commission reports. First up is council of the committee of the whole, which was Monday, November 15th, and at 7 p.m. Present were Mr. Shaku, Mr. Morris, myself, Mr. Bittner, Mrs. Thompson, and Mrs. Moore, along with Mayor Evo. Discussion was a PUD legislation 2022-0-19. There was a motion to add mixed use as an option that was made by Mr. Bittner, seconded by Mrs. Thompson. The verbiage would be drafted and legislation amended at the next meeting of council if agreed to. It was unanimous to add that as an option. We'll amend that tonight if we approve of the verbiage that I added in. There was a motion to send back to council the ordinance that was made by Mr. Bittner, second by Mrs. Thompson. The only nay was Mr. Morris. And that was the sum of the meeting. Next one, community development.
Yes, Mr. President, the committee met on November 17th, started at 6 p.m. Ended at 6:55. The purpose was to discuss the progress of the mission statement and the master plan as we worked on it. Present was myself, Desiree Thompson, Dave Shaboo, Michelle Moore, Rob Johnson, Kevin Bittner, Mary Eva, Skip Gray, Brent Moore, Ryan and Emily Findak, as well as Chris, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. Wayne, thank you. Also was present was, I mentioned that, I'm sorry. The meeting was opened to a presentation of Ryan Smalley at Them Vision. He described the work they've done and most recently in Poland, Ohio. He answered many questions concerning what they could do based on the proposal they saw us. I had reported that the two cities that I contacted concerning Envision were very happy with them. That included Madeira and Aurora, Ohio. And they were in the process, both of them, of hiring them back for another project. Mr. and Mrs. Findak, the owners of Pelican Snowballs, provided their insight as to why they chose our city to open their business in. They felt it was a good fit due to the style of the city. They were the only business owners to join us at the meeting. We were looking for more input from business owners. The next meeting was tentatively set for December 5th at 7 p.m. and our meeting adjourned.
Special committee.
Special committee met on November 17th. The purpose was to go over ordinance 1258.02. President was myself, Mr. Shaboo, Mr. Morris, Ms. Moore, Mayor Eva, Mr. Johnson, and a few members of the public. After some discussion, it was decided that we were going to put forward eliminating small box stores from business one altogether, making it a conditional use permit in business two. And we also would like to limit the number to 2 throughout the entire city. It was unanimous on that proposal to send forward to council. Meeting adjourned at 7:11.
Board of Zoning Appeals.
We did not have a council rep there. Mr. Bittner was there last night, but I will tell you, we approved a new garage on Sunset. There's an existing garage that will be demolished and the garage will go up. It was unanimously approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Any other board and commissions? Hearing none. We'll now move on to open the public to speak. If you'd like to speak, please come to the lectern and state your name and address for the record. Remember, this is not a back and forth. This is an opportunity for you to speak to council and have your statements put into the record.
Bill Cleveland, Slider Road. What subjects are on the table for me to speak about tonight? Is the PUD a subject? I see that comes after it says open to the public to speak. Does that mean that?
You open to the public period and you can speak on any topic you wish. You can talk about the color of the sun if you wish, but you'll have 10 minutes.
But, thank you. Since I can't get any answers to anything, and all I have really are questions, I'm not sure what to say other than I was hoping that if there's going to be a final vote on the PUD tonight, that we would hear what the final version is. If not, that will be disappointing. I'm particularly interested to know if the 20-foot setback option has been removed, or if we're still bending over for whatever the Summers Group wants to do, since that was obviously included on behalf of the Summers Group, unfortunately. I am in favor of the condos. One letter was written and it talked about townhouses. This had been discussed a lot in the past. I'm hoping that this is owner occupied residences that are in the PUD now that are being proposed to build, but that wasn't clear from the earlier statements. So, I guess that's all I have to say. It's too bad that we can't get answers to simple questions like, are we gonna hear the PUD tonight before it goes down? Thank you.
Good evening, the attorney 7373 Selectman. I just wanted to bring up and mention that the Zoom meeting links continue to be I went with you last week at all, tried to log into the meeting, was unsuccessful. I know at least mentioned this as well. And again, tonight, there is an issue with not being able to log into the Zoom meeting links. It's great to have that ability to do so, because if you are unable to attend the meeting, you can at least listen and pay attention to what's going on at the moment. And it's very frustrating to not know what's happening and have to wait until something gets loaded up onto YouTube. So if there's something that we can do to look at this technicality and see what's causing it and get it smoothed out going forward, I think many people would be very appreciative. Testuri 7373 Salida. I understand that there's a lot of numbers being passed around. I kind of came in partly through what you were presenting, but one piece that I did get is that your numbers were based on, was it $100,000? Was correct. I put together some information and tried to make it as realistic as possible, looking at if these luxury townhomes or condos or whatever they may be were being sold, and I guessed two prices, $250,000 and $300,000. I may be in the ballpark, maybe under, over, I'm not sure, and wrote out statistics based on if a 20% or 20%, the down payment, $50,000 for your $250 home, a 30-year loan, and I guessed an interest rate around 6%. Estimated recurring debt payments of about $1,300 a month, which I think is rather conservative. Guessed at the property tax, I did a 1.1%, so did that number may be off. Came up with $229 in property tax. A monthly homeowner insurance estimate of about $104,000. Ran that through a mortgage calculator, and the recommended annual income is $94,404. Possible income where you might be able to get a mortgage, $79,000, 32. And then looked up the statistics for Men Around the Lake, average household income being $67,827 and a median household income of $54,039. So again, these numbers are, and I sent it in an email to Mr. Shaboo. I have 2 copies here tonight. I didn't print out enough for everyone else. If anyone wants this, I'd be happy to pass it along. But again, just trying, even though numbers sound wonderful, and I'm not saying this is, doom and gloom, but I do think it's a little unrealistic when you look at a, 94 to 100, low $100,000 annual income. Thinking again, I'll ask why Men Around the Lake. I live here. I love this city, and I came because I was fortunate enough to get a house on Salida. If I was coming in with my family today, looking at these prices, I could go to neighboring Mentor or Willoughby, get a similar home, and have plenty of amenities. So again, think of the reality based on what is going on here in Men Around the Lake, as opposed to a luxury option that's going to turn everything around on a dime. I think something has to happen there. I'm not saying that, but I do not think this is the answer. But we don't want to put. That's it. Anybody?
Make this up.
That's it.
Anyone else? Okay, I will close this portion of the meeting, open to the public. We'll now move on to legislation for council. Ordinance number 2022-0-19. Third reading was assigned to council committee of the whole. We have now submitted it back. You should have received the verbiage last night. I sent it out as to amendment. So the amendment was 1255.04 under permitted buildings and uses. Part B, mixed use. The property may incorporate any percentage of property as business as a permitted use in conjunction with residential as defined in 1255.04A. That worked for everybody? Was there a concern?
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend by Mrs. Thompson. For a second? Seconded by Mr. Bittner. Roll call on the amendment, please.
Mr. Bittner.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo.
Aye.
Mr. Morris.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Okay, it has been amended. Any further discussion on the PUD?
I would just like to make one final comment. The charter levies will be up next year. When we go out and say, residents, we'd like these renewed. We may or may not hear, what have you done to increase revenues in the city? I don't want to be that person to say, well, you know what, last year, we walked away from a $11 million investment in the city, which would have brought in additional taxes, which somewhere down the road may lead to a decrease in the millage that you're paying. That's it.
Other comments? I will say this process has been, people say the legislative process is a lot like making sausage. It is. At the end of the day, the product either pisses off some people, the PETA and the vegans don't like sausage. Sausage lovers like it. Most of the people prefer bacon because, bacon's better anyway. But, so we're all going to have differences of opinion on this legislation, I know. I have never been a fond of the high density housing in general. I've said that a number of times. This has been a tough discussion over senior housing versus owner occupied condos. The mayor has brought up the need for senior housing in this city. He has quelled some of my concerns over senior housing, bringing senior housing into the city. In terms of ambulance calls, things like that. He's given us those statistics. When Judge Crane came before us, she talked about how she wanted us to be residential. She wanted to be a home for mom. That was what she kept saying, a home for mom. It gave me a lot to think about in terms of whether it's senior housing or owner occupied condos, what the right answer is. It's one thing to say the condos are going to be $11.5 million investment, but you're ignoring how much investment would be the senior housing. How much is that going to be, and how much revenue is that? You got to balance all those different numbers, and we don't have all those numbers. We're just being presented with one set. Yeah. So I don't know necessarily what the right answer is here. I do know that when we created our zoning, we thought long and hard about it, we made tough decisions, and we wanted to keep it business with the opportunity for senior housing, because we didn't want to screw up Andrew's Place. My inclination right now is to go with a home for mom. I mean, seniors bring revenue into our city just as much as owner occupied townhomes do. So my vote is going to be against the fund. Any other discussion, motions, anything here?
If I could, sir.
Yes.
Several times throughout this process, we've been presented with several different ideas. It started out as one thing, it morphed to something else, then it went into something else. And at one point, somebody in the community said, we're being held hostage, we're being bullied. And as of that last letter that Mr. Greg Summers sent to the mayor, and the mayor read, there were several incorrect facts in there, such as that property has not been vacant for decades. There was a viable business down there when I got on council. It closed because the owners ran into poor health, if I understood things right. There were a couple other things that were incorrect in there. So I don't feel that everything has been the way it should have been. It hasn't been an upfront, honest presentation. It went from a home for mom, as Mr. President, Mr. Johnson said, to now it's, boy, if we don't get the condos, townhouses, then it's going to be a subsidized housing development. And I even asked Mr. Summers, Greg Summers, is that the type of property you want to develop? I said, Andrew's Place is subsidized housing. They're fine. People there are fine. So I too am against the fund. And I mentioned the safety factor. High density housing to me is a dangerous thing to play with. And as far as the facts and figures that the gentleman spoke of earlier, we could all project numbers out there. Depending on what they're based on. I have nothing personal, sir, but I look at that as just the fox when he thinks of the hen house.
Anyone else? Is there a motion? We have a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve as amended.
Okay. Motion is made by Mr. Bittner to approve as amended. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lunder. Roll call.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Morris,
No,
Mr. Johnson,
No. The motion is passed. Now on to ordinance number 2022-0-22, third reading. Please read it by its title.
ordinance number 2022-0-22, third reading. An ordinance establishing a 6-month moratorium on the acceptance and processing of applications for zoning and or occupancy permit approvals for elderly apartments in the area designated as the R-TARP area in the Minnetonka Lake zoning ordinances and the issuance of such approvals in the city of Minnetonka Lake and declaring an emergency.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to see an ordinance on this, R-TARP. Do you have any idea what we could handle?
I was already drafting it. Mr. Lyons and I had a conflict of what I had actually asked for versus what was presented, so that's why it's not on the agenda tonight.
Okay, so it could be on the agenda next.
Yes.
Good, okay, thank you.
Motion for passage.
Motion approved by Mr. Bittner. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Thompson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore. No. Mr. Shaboo,
No.
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye, the motion is passed. Ordinance number 2022-0-23, if you please read it by its title.
ordinance number 2022-0-23. An ordinance providing the temporary appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Metaroga Lake, Ohio for the year ending December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Any discussion? Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So you would like this, it's to keep the operating budget for,
Yes.
because we don't have the
Right,
meeting
yeah.
for our thing.
Right, the period between January and the end of March.
Okay,
That's
I
what
would
this-
like to give him ample amount of time to keep doing what we have regarding, in regards to what we have to work with. I will make a motion to suspend this.
I will second.
Motion made by Mr. Bittner, seconded by Mrs. Thompson to suspend the rules. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Motion to pass.
Motion for passage by Mr. Bittner, seconded by Mrs. Thompson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye. Old business. Is there any old business tonight? New business. Is there any new business tonight? Okay, we'll now open this to the public to speak again. Again, please come to the lectern, state your name and address for the record. This is again your opportunity to put any comments into the public record and not a back and forth with council.
I may, I'm sorry to speak sooner, but I would like to answer a few questions that came up prior, just so that citizens have a clear understanding of what's happening here. First of all, I do agree with the lady that spoke about the income. These will be at least $300,000 units, if not higher, just due to construction costs. And we do believe that just to qualify for a loan like that or to have the cash to buy it, there will be at least $100K income, $100,000 a year income. So we agree with that. Just to clarify, these will be owner occupied. We will not hold them. Our original intention, we talked about apartments. Through the long process that we've all been through, we agreed to make these simple units. By law, we can't stop somebody from renting them later on, but we see it that there will be primarily owner occupied. And I'm doing this as a clarification. I believe the setback issue came up in that. I believe in the final ordinance is a average of the other buildings around. We're not asking for a 20-foot setback. So clarifying the error. Issues. We feel strongly that those numbers were presented are based on tax values that are available. You cannot build a building today for $300,000 to single family home. You just can't do it. We were involved in the Rice School project. Everyone saw what those sold for. I believe the average price over there was well over $400,000 at the end of the day. So we also believe that this could be the beginning and should spur development in the city and beginning of some infill projects, much like Tremont did. I think something like this will start to bring in people that have more income, it will attract young people, dynamics that will increase the new rooftop should help businesses in the community. We appreciate the long process. We understand the issues that have come up and we appreciate the approval. We will make sure that this happens the right way. If there's any questions, I'd like to answer. Thank you for your time.
So earlier today, I asked for just the income tax, the annual income tax totals for the years 2019, 2020, and 2021 here. And I'm looking at those numbers, in the stay-at-home tax increase, that significant amount that was suggested is really quite, it's basically a moot point. I can show you the numbers. I can forward the email to everyone on council. Again, I think numbers paint a rosy picture. If you're comparing, it's been around the lake to Tremont, it's really apples to oranges, just saying. But again, the $100,000 annual income, I think, again, if you have it, men are on the, would you move your family to a city that has really no amenities like that? And what is there? There's maybe Loba Park, or you can stand in Menor Beach Park. Maybe play baseball. I don't know. There's really not much to do there. There's no pool. Menor has their recreation center. So if you're wanting that upscale feel, there really should be something drawing them, and we don't have it yet. In this market, who's going to make that guess? Would you uproot your family? Here, given this current reality, try not to put on the rose-colored glasses, but I guess that time is over. It's troubling to me that this had to come up again, just based on an offhanded comment. We have been yanked around by numerous different supposed projects. And there has been a ton of confusion, not just on our part, on everyone's part. And I do believe that's a reality. And I think that this latest round was, unfortunately, we were muscled with scare tactics of the subsidized housing. Again, brought up by two people now, one Greg Summers and another one was a resident who used that argument, papering the projects to get low income rental people here. So I don't appreciate, I like numbers, I like facts. And I know that a lot of this on both parts, on everyone's part, is there is a certain amount of estimation and guessing. And there's always wishful thinking because you always want it to come out the best way possible. But I really think that decisions were made based on, some basic almost threats and terribly misleading numbers. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll close this portion of the meeting to the public. Move on to announcements and settings and meetings. There was a plan for a community development meeting on December 5th at 7 p.m. Is that correct?
That's what
Mr. Morris has to
Mr.
leave.
Morris says. Yeah.
November what? December 5th, 7 p.m.
Yes.
I have a basic question. You had to leave for what reason?
Family thing.
Okay.
Planning and zoning. Should we put it down on here and then if
Yeah,
it
yes.
materializes, it does?
Correct, yes.
That would be December 5th at 6 p.m.
Any other committees? Ordinance?
Oh. Well, I don't know, Mr. Morris is on that committee.
He's available most of the time. We'll just tell him to show up.
Any availability issue, schedule for you? Oh, no, city calendar.
Absolutely. City calendar.
Oh, yes, okay. December 12th,
December 12th, it's available.
all right. December 12th at 7 p.m.
That's ordinance, right?
Ordinance, yes. And for that, we will be reviewing the draft for the right of way. And inspection.
Any other committees? Okay, the next regular agenda meeting will be on Thursday, December 8th at 5:30 PM. The regular meeting of council will be on Tuesday, December 13th at 7 PM. The organizational meeting of council is scheduled for Tuesday, January 3rd at 7 PM. For motion to adjourn.
Could I just ask one, community development is what date again?
That is the 5th at 7 PM,
7, thank you.
right after planning.
Ordinance.
Or the organizational meeting of council, January 3rd at 7 PM. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Bittner,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Thompson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bittner, Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Sherwood,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned.
I mean, that's me.
I don't know. If
Did the meeting
I know.
work?
Why am I getting shit?
The meeting link, it's not working.
Supposedly not.
Yeah, we have.
I don't think the calendar was, I don't think it was scheduled on the calendar for the last two committee meetings. That's why we couldn't get it.
It's not working tonight either.
Oh,
It's not.
oh. Sorry. I didn't know.
Yeah, we need to walk out.
I don't know if it's recorded, not recorded. It started, so I was gonna just end it.
Dismiss,
Not that one. Underneath there.
stop video.
Yeah. No, stop. End meeting. Lower right hand. Right under this dismiss.
So you are gonna have to dismiss that, because we gotta get to right there. And for, yep. So I don't know if it